Your parents bought their first house at 25. Their mortgage payment ate up 18% of their take-home pay. 18. Today, in 47 major American cities, housing consumes more than half of every single dollar you earn. That's not a housing market, that's a hostage situation. I'm going to show you the exact math that broke the system, and why that 30% rule every financial advisor keeps quoting is basically a fairy tale for a version of America that no longer exists. But here's what nobody's telling you. There are exactly 3 cities left where the old math still works, and I'll reveal all 3 before this video ends. Let's rewind to 1981. The 30% rule was born from a government observation. Households spending more than 30% of income on housing were officially classified as cost-burdened. That was the line. Cross it, and you were in financial danger territory. Back then, the median home price was $68,000. Median household income was about $21,000. That's a price-to-income ratio of roughly 3.2. A typical house cost about 3 times what a typical family earned in a year. Manageable. Logical. A system that actually functioned the way it was supposed to. Now fast forward to today. Median home price in the United States has climbed to roughly $420,000. Median household income, about $75,000. That price-to-income ratio has ballooned to 5.6 nationally. But in dozens of major cities, it's 8, 9, even above 10. Let me walk you through the actual monthly math on a median-priced home right now, because this is where it stops being abstract and starts being painful. You buy at $420,000. You somehow scrape together a 10% down payment, that's $42,000, probably while paying $1,800 a month in rent. Your loan amount is $378,000. At today's interest rates, roughly 7%, your monthly principal and interest alone is about $2,515. Add property taxes at roughly 1.1% of home value, that's another $385 per month. Homeowner's insurance, average $150. Private mortgage insurance because you didn't hit 20% down, that's roughly $190 more. And let's conservatively budget $200 monthly for maintenance and repairs, because things break. Total monthly housing cost, $3,440. Now, the median individual income for millennials sits at approximately $52,000 per year. After taxes, depending on your state, you're taking home somewhere between $3,900 and $4,200 per month. So your housing costs range from 82% to 88% of your take-home pay. On a median-priced home with a median millennial income, even if we use median household income with 2 earners, housing still consumes 49 to 53% of monthly take-home pay in 47 major metropolitan areas. The 30% rule didn't just bend, it didn't stretch. It completely snapped in half. Harvard's Joint Center for Housing Studies confirmed all of this in their latest report. 47 of the nation's 100 largest metro areas now have median housing costs exceeding 50% of the typical household income. Not individual income, household income. 2 earners combining paychecks still can't stay under that 30% line. The worst offenders? Miami. The median household there spends 62% of their income just on housing. Los Angeles, 58%. New York, 57%. Even cities that used to be the affordable escape valves have joined the broken club. Nashville hit 51%. Austin sits at 54%. Boise, Idaho. Boise is at 49%. So how did we actually get here? Because this wasn't some natural economic evolution. This was a slow-motion policy failure spanning 4 decades. Factor 1, zoning laws. Starting in the 1970s and accelerating through the 90s, local governments across the country massively expanded single-family-only zoning. By 2019, in most major cities, 75% or more of all residential land was legally restricted to single-family homes only. No duplexes, no townhomes, no apartments. This artificially choked off housing supply while demand kept surging. Factor 2. The financialization of housing. Between 2000 and 2020, institutional investors purchased millions of single-family homes and converted them into permanent rentals. These aren't mom-and-pop landlords. These are Wall Street firms with essentially unlimited capital who can outbid any first-time buyer by $20,000 without blinking. During peak years, investors were buying nearly 1 in 3 homes in some Sunbelt cities. Factor 3. Wage stagnation. Since 1970, worker productivity has grown roughly 62%. Wages over that same period? Grown about 18%. That 44 percentage point gap is money that used to flow into paychecks and now flows elsewhere. Shareholder returns, executive compensation, stock buybacks. You generated more value but didn't get paid for it. But what if you're renting? Surely that's the escape hatch, right? The average national rent hit roughly $19.50 per month last year for a 1-bedroom apartment. In the 47 cities we're tracking, renters need to earn approximately $78,000 annually just to keep their housing costs at that magical 30% threshold. The median millennial individual income, remember, is $52,000. You would need a 50% raise just to graduate to house poor instead of house impossible. Here's why this genuinely matters beyond just the feeling of being broke all the time. The 30% rule wasn't arbitrary. It was designed to leave room for the rest of a functional financial life. Housing at 30% left 70% for everything else. Food at roughly 13%, transportation at 15%, healthcare, savings, debt payments, retirement contributions, maybe, just maybe, some discretionary spending so you didn't feel like a financial zombie just shuffling through life. When housing steals 52% of your income, that missing 22% has to come from somewhere. And the data shows exactly where it's coming from. Retirement savings are down 35% among millennials compared to Generation X at the same age. Emergency fund holdings have dropped to near zero for most households under 40. And millennial homeownership is running 8 to 10 years behind where both boomers and Gen X were at the same stage of life. You're not bad with money. You're playing a game where the board is tilted 30 degrees and the dice are loaded. All right, I promised you those 3 cities. The last holdouts where the 30% rule isn't completely dead. Number 1, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Median home price around $210,000. Median household income about $63,000. Housing costs as a percentage of take-home pay for a 2-earner household, roughly 28%. Still tight for individuals, but for couples, the math actually works. Number 2, Cleveland, Ohio. Median home price near $195,000. Median household income around $55,000. Housing burden, approximately 26%. You'll deal with harsh winters, but your bank account won't freeze solid. Number 3, Buffalo, New York. Median home price around $230,000. Median household income near $60,000. Housing burden, roughly 29%. Right at that threshold, just barely inside the old rules. Notice something about all 3? None of them are glamorous. None of them are in California, Texas, or Florida. They're all in the Rust Belt. They all have their problems: aging infrastructure, cold weather, economies still transitioning from their manufacturing past. But the math? The math actually works. So what do you actually do with this information? Because I'm not in the business of just delivering depressing news and walking away. Step 1, stop blaming yourself. When a systemic problem affects 47 out of 100 major cities, it's not a personal finance failure. You didn't avocado toast your way out of home ownership. You were handed an equation where the variables literally do not balance, and then society told you it was your fault the answer came out wrong. Step 2. Recalculate your personal housing ratio with honest numbers. Pull your actual monthly take-home pay, not your salary, not what you wish you made. Multiply it by 0.3. That number is your real housing budget based on the old rule. If nothing exists in your area at that price point, you now have data instead of guilt. and data is always more useful than shame. Step 3. Consider geographic arbitrage if your life allows it. Remote work, while declining from pandemic peaks, is still roughly 3 times more common than it was in 2019. If your employer permits it, moving your income to a lower-cost housing market isn't giving up on your ambitions. It's playing the game strategically instead of emotionally. Step 4. Decouple where you live from where you build equity. This is the move many younger investors are making right now. Rent where you need to live for career opportunities and social connection. But buy property where the math makes sense, even if that means owning a rental property in a different state. You build equity through ownership, not through your zip code. The 30% rule collapsed because the entire economy underneath it shifted. Wages flatlined for a generation. Housing transformed from shelter into an asset class. Local policy chose scarcity over abundance, and you were left holding the bill. But here's what hasn't collapsed. Your ability to look at the numbers honestly, to adjust your strategy based on reality instead of outdated advice, and to stop carrying guilt for a system you had absolutely no hand in breaking. The rules changed. The game changed, and the people who figure out the new rules first are the ones who come out ahead. If this kind of honest financial breakdown is useful for you, there's a lot more where this came from. This channel goes deeper every single week on the actual math behind money decisions that shape your life. No hype, no false optimism, just real numbers and real strategies. Consider subscribing if you want to stay ahead of the next economic reality check before it hits your paycheck. Stay sharp out there.